What's up, my fellow gaming individuals? I hope you guys are all having a great day today, just full of so much positivity and happiness, dude, because I don't really feel like this video is going to contribute much to that. In all honesty, man, this is probably going to be pretty negative, but I feel like it needs to be said regardless. Now, the topic we're going to be talking about here today is probably surprising to some of you out there, because for some reason, man, I have like this reputation of being like an Xbox fanboy or Xbox shill or something like that, which I find really funny considering the fact that I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've turned on my Xbox in the past year, but that doesn't matter, man. We're breaking the mold of being an Xbox fanboy channel, and we are going to be talking shit about Microsoft and their handling of the Xbox platform, which I think is long overdue. I've wanted to make this video for a very long time, and you know what? I just decided, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to go ahead and do this shit because I'm not really happy with the current state of the Xbox platform and the way that their first-party games have been handled, and with Xbox becoming arguably the largest video game publisher in the world with all these acquisitions they're making. Like, this is kind of an important topic to hammer home on and talk about. Even if I'm not particularly interested in Xbox as a gaming platform, their games are definitely going to be on PC, which is my primary platform, and with them buying up so many third-party developers, you know, this is actually an important topic for me to discuss and one I'm actually passionate about, because I actually was a really big fan of most of Microsoft's franchises back in the 360 generation, but even like my favorite, Gears of War, which is the reason why I even bought an Xbox 360 in the first place. That franchise has gone so far downhill from where it used to be, and that's a trend I've noticed with the majority of Microsoft's games, whether they be first party or even third party, with the exception of the Forza Horizon series. But I say all that to say this is coming from a place of love still. I want Xbox to be better. I want to actually look forward to their games again. I mean, Gears of War, again, man, was one of the highest rated franchises that entire generation during the 360 PS3 era. So I know they're capable of doing it. They know how to pick winners. They've done it before, but the problem just seems to be leadership from the top down, whether it be a lack of quantity or a lack of quality. I think both issues are plaguing Microsoft right now, because the amount of games we've been getting from them has been completely dismal, and the ones that we do get, for the most part, there are a few exceptions, have been less than, let's say, ideal, to be very nice about it. But that brings us to the first topic I want to discuss in this video, and that, of course, is the current state of Xbox's first party. And I don't think there's a better person on this planet to go ahead and sum up what he believes to be the current state of Xbox's first party lineup better than Phil Spencer. So you know what? Take it away, Phil.
One thing we've definitely heard loud and clear is it's been too long since we've shipped kind of what people would say is a big first-party game. We can have our excuses on COVID and other things, but in the end, I know people invest in our platform and they want to have great games. We're excited about 2023. We've talked about games that are coming, and those games are tracking well. We're kind of out of what COVID did to the production schedule. And as an industry, I think we have fewer games this holiday than we've had in a while. When you just think about the launches, you mentioned Call of Duty's coming, God of War's coming, which is great. Nintendo's had a good year, but I'd say in general, we've been a little light. But I look at 2023, and there's a great lineup of games coming that I'm excited about.
I mean, that clip really does tell you basically everything you need to hear, because when Phil Spencer, the guy who's literally in charge of Xbox, is coming out and basically acknowledging and sympathizing with people who are complaining about a very clear problem with Xbox, like, it kind of tells you really all you need to know. Like, if he's basically saying, like, it's been a while since we've released, like, a true AAA game, even with Halo Infinite coming out a year ago, you know, Forza Horizon 5 coming out a year ago, Gears 5 before that, like, it just kind of tells you that I think even he's a little upset with the current output and state of Microsoft's first-party studios, but at the same time, you have to wonder, like, well, you're in charge of this shit. You need to go in there Indiana Jones style and start cracking that fucking whip and getting these developers to actually put out not only a quantity of games, but actual quality games as well, which I know that's easier said than done, blah, 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 but, you know, when you look at Nintendo, when you look at Sony, when you look at any other development studio out there in the vast video video game industry, you know, they don't have as many resources at their disposal as Microsoft does. Like, Microsoft has an infinite money printer, as we've seen with their $70 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. So there's really no excuse. So if Nintendo's able to put stuff out, if Sony's able to put stuff out, where are the games for Microsoft? Like, it just feels like Microsoft has completely taken their foot off the gas when it comes to releasing video games, and I think that's very clear considering in 2022 we literally got nothing in the form of a AAA release from any of Microsoft's first-party studios, which in my opinion is completely unacceptable considering the fact how much they love to flaunt the fact how many studios they own themselves. So I think this is a bigger issue, and Phil coming out and saying this I think really speaks a lot more than people are looking into it, because even he's publicly acknowledging like, hey, this is a problem. I just hope there's actually a solution to this, because even if the quantity of these AAA games does go up, I mean, just look at the track record we've seen. Gears of War 5, I would say the story was a massive downgrade from the original trilogy. I don't really think many people would argue that. I mean, of course, there's going to be people like, oh, I love Gears 5. Well, yeah, okay, whatever, that's fine. I don't think Gears 5 anywhere reaches the heights of the original trilogy personally. I mean, look at Halo Infinite. Yeah, the campaign was fine, whatever. The multiplayer is still a complete and utter disaster to this day. The game is dying. Most people don't care about it anymore. I mean, the only game Microsoft consistently has been putting out, I would say that's been good, has been Forza Horizon. And to be honest, man, I'm just not that interested in 6 different Forza Horizon games. I loved Forza Horizon 3. I played a ton of it. Forza Horizon 4 came out 2 years later. I was kind of like, this is great, but I kind of just played a bunch of this game previously. And Forza Horizon 5 came out, and I really felt no desire to play it whatsoever, because in reality, there's only so much you can do with a racing game. So it would be great if Microsoft could actually get this output up, but not only just that, actually make sure the quality of those big games that they're spending 5, 6, 7 years in some cases, in the case of Halo Infinite, developing, if those games could actually have a payoff. So you're not just waiting for these games to come out and then all of a sudden they do, and they're just a complete and utter disappointment. So I don't really know what the solution is to that. I think it has a lot to do with management. Like, the recent management shakeup at 343 seems to be going in a positive direction right now. The new Halo update was a big step up from what we've been getting previously, but I mean, I think it's across the board at Microsoft Studios. It just seems like there's absolutely no drive or hunger to put out games anymore. It just seems like everybody's on cruise control. It'll get done when it gets done, and there's no sense of urgency whatsoever, which personally I'm not a fan of, because I want to enjoy Microsoft's games. I want to play the new Fable. I want to play Avowed from Obsidian, but when Obsidian would rather work on, you know, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the video game, and Pentiment, a literal visual novel, versus putting all fucking hands on deck to pour work into Avowed so that maybe we could actually get a glimpse of gameplay, you know, that's just kind of a hard pill to swallow, man. And you look at games like God of War Ragnarok, you know, Spider-Man 2 is coming out soon, the Wolverine game over at PlayStation, they got Horizon Forgotten West, you know, games like that. I mean, even if you're not a fan of Sony's games, or even Nintendo's games in that case, you have to acknowledge, like, Sony and Nintendo have done a very good job of balancing that kind of responsibility of putting out first-party games that appeal to their consumer base, or at least their core consumer base. Because I know, you know, exclusives aren't the end-all be-all for a console, especially the PlayStation and Xbox. I think in the case of Nintendo, they 100% are. Nintendo's kind of a unicorn in this industry, but, you know, Microsoft really needs to get on that level as Sony and Nintendo and identify, hey, these are the type of games that our fans love, and we're going to pour every single resource into making those exact type of games so that people who buy an Xbox know, like, hey, if you're a fan of shooters and Western RPGs, for example, this is the console for you. And I don't think they've demonstrated that and built their identity, because if you look back at the 360 generation, which is their most successful console generation and my personal favorite console generation of all time, Xbox had a very strong identity. It was dude bro shooters and Western RPGs. And I think Microsoft needs to kind of pivot back to that, because in recent years, they've taken games like Gears of War, Halo, and they've made them not just like the traditional shooter or cover-based shooter, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. They've changed the direction of those games. Instead of gameplay and the fun aspect being the focus, it's now pivoted more towards like the Sony style of storytelling, more narrative-heavy game design, which I am not a fan of personally, because if I was, I would just go play on PlayStation. And I've never been a big fan of PlayStation games for that exact reason, because I feel like I'd rather play a game than watch it. And Microsoft's games in the past have always embodied the idea, like, game gameplay is the main focus. When you think about Halo, you don't think like, oh my god, I loved watching the cutscenes. Or Gears of War, you think about the moment-to-moment interactions as you're like mowing down hordes of the fucking locusts between the different members of Delta Team. Like, you don't think about like, oh my god, I really love that one cutscene. I mean, yeah, there's memorable cutscenes in the game, but those aren't the main focus, and I feel like that's what was lost in all of this. Microsoft is trying to emulate the success of Sony versus trying to, you know, do their own thing and realize like, hey, the dude bro shooter and Western RPG market is what made our console a success. Let's be the best company around at making those specific type of games so that when people go out and buy an Xbox, they go like, hey, I love first-person shooters, I love third-person shooters, I love Western RPGs. I know if I buy this console, I'm going to get genre-defining experiences in those particular genres like Sony has been able to do with narrative-driven games. And again, I don't care if you like Sony's games or not. That's not what this is about. I don't like Sony's games, but I have to give them credit for the fact that they have identified a niche. They know what their core fan base loves. They love those narrative-driven, single-player, over-the-shoulder, third-person, walking simulator, whatever the fuck you want to call it, man. Not the type of game for me, but Sony does those games better than anyone else in the entire video game industry, and because of that, you can safely buy most Sony first-party games and have a standard to basically expect when it comes to the quality of those games. Same with Nintendo. They kind of cater to the family fun, arcade, platformer kind of market, and you know when you buy a Nintendo console, you're going to get tons of those games that are going to be really high quality that you're probably really going to enjoy if you like those style of games. I can't point to Microsoft and be like, you know what, I'm a really big shooter fan. You know, I'm buying an Xbox because I love shooters, because Gears of War 5 was disappointing. Halo Infinite was extremely disappointing. And what do we have in terms of announcements from Microsoft in that particular genre? We have Perfect Dark, which no release date, no release year, no release window, no gameplay, just a logo flash on screen. So there's not really much to look forward to, whereas you look at Sony, you know, oh, they have Spider-Man 2 coming out, they have Wolverine coming out, you know there's probably going to be another God of War game, you know that there's probably going to be another Horizon game, you know there's probably going to be something coming from Naughty Dog here pretty soon. Like, you know that there's stuff in the pipeline. And with Microsoft, there may be stuff in the pipeline, but who the hell knows when it's coming out, and who the hell even knows if it's going to be good if it does come out, because, you know, their recent track record kind of speaks for itself in that regard. So I think that's the biggest issue with Microsoft, is they've lost their identity as a first-party developer. They don't know what they want to be in the video game industry, and instead of trying to imitate the success of someone like Sony, they need to go back to their roots with the 360 era and focus on those experiences and create genre-defining games in those particular genres that Nintendo and Sony both are neglecting right now. When was the last time we got a first-person shooter from Sony? You know, what, Killzone Shadowfall, which was a complete dumpster fire? So Microsoft really has an opportunity to really drive that shit home and establish a foothold in those particular genres, which will attract those customers to their console. And if they just manage to get that under control, I think we're going to be very, very good in terms of a place for the Xbox first-party lineup. But that brings me to the next topic. Everything is great as long as we have Game Pass.
Mediocre, we got the Game Pass, we got the Game Pass.
Lately, I've noticed a trend on the internet where if you say anything remotely negative about Xbox, Xbox games, the platform as a whole, the decisions being made there, your disappointment with whatever game comes out from an Xbox first-party studio, you are immediately met with a lot of Xbox fanboys shouting in your face like, but I got the game through Game Pass, so I don't really care if it's bad or not. I didn't have to pay for it. Or, you know, well, Game Pass is such a good deal. I don't care that there's not any Microsoft games out right now. There's plenty of stuff for me to play in Game Pass. And while, yes, Game Pass is a great value, I'm not going to argue that. If you find value in Game Pass, that's great. I think it's a good service. It's a great option, but that's what it is. It's an optional service. You are not required to buy Game Pass when you play Microsoft games, and you can still purchase Microsoft games separately from a Game Pass subscription, which leads to the issue. While Game Pass is a great option, that's all it is. It's an option. It's not a requirement of owning an Xbox, so therefore you can't sweep all of Xbox's issues under the rug by throwing out an optional service in front of everyone's face, because that's not how this shit works. Microsoft is still opting to sell these games separately on their their own as standalone purchases on both Xbox and PC across multiple different marketplaces. So Game Pass is not a valid excuse for all the issues that Microsoft has plaguing its first party. Like, I always think back to this example because it happened recently. I made a community post basically comparing the games with gold lineup and the PlayStation Plus free games lineup. And basically PlayStation was getting the Tony Hawk bundle with the remastered games for free, which is a really awesome deal. Like, honestly, that's a great game to get for free for that month. But then Xbox, on the other hand, was giving out like some obese cat girl cafe simulator, like a complete joke of a game in comparison to the Tony Hawk remastered bundle. And I made a community post with a screenshot of each of the month's offerings and said Microsoft needs to step their game up with games with gold, which I think is a pretty fair criticism. I mean, PlayStation was obviously offering the better game that month to their subscribers, and immediately when I uploaded that community post, the only thing I saw in that comment section was literally just people saying like, oh, I don't even care about games with gold anymore. Game Pass is such a great value. I don't even pay attention to it, which is completely not the point I was making. I said nothing about Game Pass in that community post, but yet the immediate second that I dare to criticize anything related to Xbox, Game Pass gets thrown in my face as a deflection method when these people are so like mindlessly trying to defend Xbox that they don't realize that Game Pass and games with gold are completely different subscription services. Now, I know people will say, well, games with gold is part of Game Pass Ultimate. Well, Game Pass Ultimate is a bundle between Xbox Live Gold and Xbox Game Pass for PC and console. A bundle implies that you're still paying for each one of those things individually, but because you subscribe to all of them at one time, you get them for a discounted rate, but you're still paying for Xbox Live Gold each month, just like you're paying for Xbox Game Pass. So you as a customer of Xbox Live Gold should be expecting better games regardless of what is offered in Game Pass, because it's a completely separate service that you're having to pay for. And it just blows my mind that people are so fast to dismiss any little bit of criticism by throwing Game Pass back in your face. Now, this is more of an Xbox community issue that I've seen versus a Microsoft issue, but I do think this mentality might have a potential to bleed back into Microsoft and kind of give them the idea that basically people on Xbox don't really give a shit in terms of the quality that they put out, because, you know, if it's in Game Pass, you can't really complain because it's only $10 a month and, you know, you didn't really buy the game anyway, which we've seen with a lot of their games that they've released. They've kind of been half-assed, they haven't lived up to expectations, and overall, a lot of them have just completely bombed and been forgotten about in a matter of weeks. So this is kind of a more dangerous mentality than I think a lot of people have. It is perfectly fine to criticize a platform and still acknowledge that certain aspects of it are great. I think the whole business model surrounding Xbox Game Pass is incredible. I think it's great. I think it's a really positive step in the right direction for the video game industry. It makes gaming more accessible, more affordable, and I think it's an overall net positive for the Xbox platform. But on the other hand, it does not excuse the numerous issues that Microsoft has with the Xbox platform, and using it to deflect criticism away from those issues is only going to hurt the platform in the long run if we give Microsoft the idea that no matter what they do, as long as they give us Game Pass, we'll just shut the fuck up and hand them our money. So I see nothing wrong with pointing out an issue to something completely unrelated to Game Pass, and you shouldn't have to worry about doing that and then having a horde of Xbox fanboys come back and throw Game Pass in your face like it actually has something to do with the point you just made, which is the most irritating factor in all of this. And this is more of a community thing again, but I do think it has the potential, if this mentality grows and grows enough on the internet, that eventually Microsoft might start taking advantage of it, probably more than they already are right now, because the games with gold situation I think is a direct reflection of the fact that they're focusing more so on Xbox Game Pass than the actual value added to Xbox Live Gold. But I don't know, man, as much as it pains me to say this, Amazing Lucas may have been right all along, man.
Because in order to be a gaming console, you have to have games, right? They have no games. They have none. Zilch, zero, nada.
But listen, we got the Game Pass. We got the Game Pass.
Listen,
Xbox fanboys really do use Xbox Game Pass as an excuse for literally anything Microsoft does. Now, just like PlayStation fanboys bring up first-party exclusives like God of War to excuse every little thing that Sony does, and just like Nintendo fanboys bring up portability to excuse the tragedy that is the Switch hardware in 2022. But anyway, I want to bring us to the last topic of discussion here, and that, of course, is Microsoft's recent studio acquisitions. Now, it's no secret that Microsoft has been buying studios left and right, and really we haven't seen much as a result of this. Now, given I do know it takes time to develop games, I get told this all the time when I complain about it in streams, but some of these acquisitions have happened 4 to 5 years ago at this point. Also, video game studios don't just sit around and do nothing all day. I mean, unless you're 343. But anyway, these studios probably had works in progress. They have existing engines, they have existing franchises, they have existing assets they could pull from and put together some games. It does not take 5 to 10 years to make a video game, as much as people might like to think so. It does not, especially if you already have a lot of the foundation there in place. But we really haven't seen much as a result of the Microsoft studio acquisitions across the board. I mean, like, can anyone really think of anything that's come out from one of these acquired studios? Like, I really cannot think of anything. We've just gotten the typical Halo, Gears, and Forza, even though Microsoft for the past 4 years has been making these massive studio acquisitions. Now, I know a lot of people will point to Starfield, which is coming out next year, but I want to ask you a question here, okay? If Microsoft had not bought Bethesda, would you not still be getting Starfield on Xbox? The only thing that changed in regards to Starfield that we know about as a result of Microsoft acquiring Bethesda is now the game is not coming to PlayStation, which personally for me is of no benefit at all. Like, I gain nothing from other people not being able to play a video game. We haven't heard anything about how Microsoft Studios have made the game better, how Microsoft's resources have been put into play to improve Starfield as a video game. The only thing we've ever heard come out in regards to Starfield related to Xbox's acquisition of Bethesda is now the game is going to be exclusive to the Xbox platform and PC, which, taking away a game from PlayStation, literally only caters to fanboys on Twitter who want something to wave in front of their fellow fanboys on PlayStation and brag about. Like, for me personally, it brings me no joy knowing that people who were originally supposed to be able to play a game now can't play it. I mean, I just don't understand why anyone would actually be unironically happy about that fact, unless you literally fill your shallow existence of a life by bragging about exclusivity on Twitter. But, you know, let's just go ahead and move on, man. No need to get into that fucking rabbit hole. But anyway, we haven't really seen a direct impact of Microsoft owning Bethesda yet. And yes, it's still early, I know that, but in the case of Sony, I want to bring your attention to this because I think Sony handled this really well. When they acquired Bungie, immediately they came out and announced, like, hey, we're putting Bungie's resources to work. We're going to use them to make 10 new games for the PlayStation in the live services category, leveraging our existing studios and Bungie's expertise in the space by the year 2025. So 10 new games are coming from Bungie directly or indirectly to the PlayStation platform. Another perfect example, Insomniac. When Sony purchased Insomniac Games, immediately after that, what do they announce? Spider-Man 2 and a Wolverine game coming out, which Sony is leveraging their contacts with Marvel in order to get those licenses for Marvel IPs that allows Insomniac to make new games for the PlayStation platform. We have not seen Microsoft do anything like this. It would have been great if Microsoft, after they acquired Bethesda, would have come out and said, hey, we're giving id Software the go-ahead to make a brand new spin-off title in the Halo franchise where you fight off the Flood or something like that. Like, that would be something exciting. That would be something cool. That would be a direct benefit of Microsoft and Bethesda coming together and joining forces. Now Bethesda studios have access to Microsoft's IPs and vice versa, and a studio like id Software, which is god tier in the FPS genre, is now able to go work on a franchise like Halo and deliver Xbox a brand new experience that otherwise would have never existed before. And I think that's what Microsoft really needs to hammer home at this point. Like, how are these studio acquisitions really benefiting Xbox customers? Because if the plan is basically to release the same games that would have come out anyway, but this time now they're exclusive to Xbox and also in Game Pass, I don't really care. care at the end of the day. Like, that's not a massive deal to me. I understand, yeah, it's nice you don't have to buy those games now, but those games realistically would have existed with or without Microsoft owning the studio, and I think that's what we need to see from Microsoft in the form of these acquisitions, is they need to communicate better with the community. They need to give people a reason to look forward to the things they have coming out in the pipeline, because we really don't know shit. Like, what do we know that Microsoft is putting out? They're putting out Avowed, which we got a 90-second logo flash. They're putting out Fable, which got a 90-second logo flash. They're putting out Perfect Dark, which got a 90-second logo flash, which Perfect Dark is not even being developed in-house by Microsoft. They're outsourcing that to Crystal Dynamics, which is already a massive fucking red flag in my mind. So we don't really have anything to point to and be like, hey, I'm really glad that Microsoft acquired these studios, because we're getting all these brand new experiences, and these studios are leveraging each other's IPs, resources, and talents to make their games even better than they could have ever hoped to have been in the past. And we're not seeing that as a result, which I think is a massive disservice to Xbox in terms of them selling people on the future of their platform. And I think it's something that Sony and even Nintendo does a lot better. They put it out there. People know what to expect. And with Microsoft, you don't know what to expect other than getting Halo, Gears, and Forza. But nowadays, you don't even know if those games are going to be good. So that's kind of the point I'm making here, is these studio acquisitions are basically putting games in Game Pass that you would have already gotten already and just removing the ability for PlayStation users to actually play these games, which I don't think is a net benefit to anyone. And if anything, Microsoft may have just been better off paying to have these games in Game Pass from the jump instead of acquiring these studios. So that's where I think it's kind of an interesting topic. And I know, yes, it takes time to develop games. It may be in 5 years. It may be a completely different story. But I just want to put it out here because it's what I'm feeling right now, and I want to talk about it. It's a fucking YouTube channel. Deal with it. But I think it's an important topic to bring up because there's always been this massive like meme in the Xbox community where Xbox fanboys are always like, oh, wait till E3 2016, wait till E3 2017, wait till E3 2018, wait till 2019, wait till 2020, wait till 2021, wait till 2022. Now it's wait until 2023. And you kind of get where this is going. It always is kicking the can down the road. And at some point, people just need to acknowledge there's a fucking issue here. There should not be this level of mystery surrounding whether or not Microsoft, with all of these fucking studios at their disposal, is finally going to get off their ass and release games that people actually give a fuck about and that people are looking forward to, and then not have to wonder when those games finally come out if they're going to be a massive heap of dog shit or not, like we've seen with Gears 5 and Halo Infinite recently. I mean, Forza has literally been Microsoft's only consistently great IP in their entire catalog, and that is not a position that a fucking $2 trillion company with all of these studios and all of these resources at their disposal should even be facing right now. And that's what makes this so irritating to me as someone who wants to like Halo, who wants to like the new Gears of War game, who wants to get the new Fable game, who wants to try out Avowed because Obsidian's take on Skyrim sounds incredibly fucking awesome, and I would love to be able to try that game out. But we don't know when the fuck they're coming out, and in the case of Halo and Gears, the last two games have been absolute trash. So that's what I mean, man. It's a sense of frustration, but it also comes from a place of love, bro. Like, I want Xbox to be kicking ass, taking names, and them putting out a ton of games that people are really fucking happy with. I want them firing on all cylinders, putting out a great quality and quantity of games at the same time. They have the resources, they have the studios, they have the developers to do so. I think this really just falls down on poor management at the end of the day, and the lack of someone in Microsoft daily cracking the whip on these studios, telling them, get your shit together and release these fucking games. But you know what, man? I don't know. I don't want to get too ranty here. I think we should probably go ahead and wrap this video up. So like I said, this is coming from a place of love. I want Xbox to be the best platform it can possibly be. I want Microsoft out there making incredible games that everyone can enjoy, at least if you have a PC or Xbox, it seems like. And I want them to basically make Game Pass the greatest value in all of video games and pack that thing full of just consistently amazing, great AAA releases from all their different studios under their umbrella. And we just sadly are not at that point yet, and I don't know when we are actually going to get to that point at this current trajectory. history. So this video was more of me just kind of venting some frustrations I have with Xbox as a platform. I do tend to highlight a lot more of the negative side of Sony on this channel, so I thought it was only fair that we go ahead and give Xbox a round and, you know, voice some legitimate criticisms, I feel like, and hopefully, you know, I don't really think this video is going to accomplish anything. I don't even know why the fuck I'm even trying to say that shit. No one at Microsoft gives a single fuck about what I have to say or what anyone really has to say until it starts affecting their bottom line, and hopefully it doesn't ever have to get to that point. You know, I hope that Microsoft is making the right decisions behind the scene and they're just really being willfully silent on a lot of stuff and they're going to really surprise us. But at the same time, man, it's a fucking commentary YouTube channel. I'm going to talk about shit that I'm interested in, and this is what's been on my mind recently, especially if you've been in the live streams. I've been on many a 1-hour rants about the current state of Xbox, so hopefully you guys did find some enjoyment out of this video. If you agreed with anything I said, make sure to drop a like on this video and let me know in the comment section how my opinion is the best opinion on this platform, or tell me what a complete fucking idiot I am. I don't really care. Appreciate you guys watching. I really appreciate all the support on the channel. You guys are the fucking best. I think this video is going to go up before Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday with your family, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.